I told myself Spider-Man would be the last character I'd ever make a guide on, mainly because, I always saw him as sort of this obnoxious hero in Rivals, but after spending weeks playing him almost exclusively, I have to take a second to apologize to Spider-Man mains. I wasn't familiar with your game. Okay, Spider-Man provides a freedom of movement no other character can come close to matching. His rollouts are insanely fast. You'll see clips in here where I go from the spawn room to the convoy point with a kill in under 6 seconds, right? Spawn to point to kill, 6 seconds. And Spider-Man's ability to completely soak up all of the attention of key enemy duelists makes him an incredibly valuable teammate, provided the person playing him knows what they're doing. And that's the whole purpose of this video, right? Hopefully by the end of it, you'll have a much better idea of how to approach Spider-Man and how to start playing him at a higher level. But before we dive in, let me first thank the sponsor of today's video who allowed me to devote so much time to this guide through their sponsorship. It's Rocket Money. One thing that sucks about being in it all is all the time and energy we have to spend on managing finances. And in the modern day when everything is subscription-based and you have to keep track of dozens of different places that small amounts of cash are heading every month, like neglect can add up to hundreds of dollars wasted on things you don't use and you don't need. That's money I could spend on my hobbies like kayaking, fishing, collecting and sharing whiskey, buying skins for my favorite characters in Marvel Rivals. You know, the important things. That's where Rocket Money steps in to be your best friend. This sponsorship literally couldn't have happened at a better time. I'm being honest. You can ask my wife. It was literally just this past weekend that it took me almost an entire hour to cancel one service. I got on the phone with the provider and I had to put in tons of different information just to get to somebody who eventually told me that cancellations are handled by a third party, and they transferred me to the third party, and then I had to put in more information. And by the time that we got the cancellation, they said they don't handle refunds there. The provider does. They had to transfer me back to the provider. It was a nightmare. But Rocket Money is an all-in-one personal finance app that helps you cancel subscriptions, lower bills, manage your money better. Knowledge is power, and Rocket Money shows you where your money is going every month, so you have the power to change your bottom line in real time. One of the best things they do is handle cancellations for subscription services, so you don't have to go through that awful song and dance that I just had to endure to get one thing canceled. But one feature that's absolutely insane to me is that Rocket Money can look at your phone bill, internet bill, whatever, and it can go and negotiate a better rate for you by finding new promotional deals and packages that help you keep the service you like but lower the cost for it. At the end of the day, this means you free up a ton of capital in your accounts to spend on things you actually want, like that summer swimsuit skin for Luna Snow or Psylocke. You know, the things that really matter. So if you want to see just how much you can save, use my link in the description. It's rocketmoney.com/truevanguard, and you can sign up for a free trial of Rocket Money. Join the now over 5 million people using Rocket Money every month. And if you like what they're doing, you can check out Rocket Money Premium for even more features. Thanks again, Rocket Money, for sponsoring the video today. Let's get back to Marvel Rivals. Okay, let's get cranking on this Spider-Man guide. I always like to start my guides with a quick sort of summation of what the hero does on the battlefield, right? And I think most people mistakenly see Spider-Man as specifically a backline diver, right? Who just prioritizes the enemy healers and that's it. And this is sometimes the case, but that's definitely an oversimplification of his strengths, and it's pretty reductive. I'd rather describe him this way. Think of the two teams locked in the arena in battle as a sort of solar system, okay? Each player is a planet or a moon constantly in motion, doing their song and dance with one another. But Spider-Man is an interstellar object. He's just passing through, right? He zooms through the solar system. He collides with objects on his way through, dealing serious damage. If you're not a space nut, maybe a better analogy would be to call Spider-Man a car in Frogger, okay? He's just zooming through, looking to take someone out in the process. But I like the solar system analogy better because Spider-Man operates in three-dimensional spaces. He's not locked to the ground, mostly moving on a two-dimensional plane like many characters are. So yeah, he's an interstellar object. The first thing we need to spend time learning is his movement. Okay, you need to learn how to be annoying, because in order to be a good Spider-Man, you kind of have to play like, you know, like a little bitch. Now, I have to censor stuff like that because, you know, the video's sponsored. Also because both my dad and my pastor sometimes watch my videos, so if I get too racy, then I'll catch an earful on Saturday at family dinner and then again on Sunday in the church foyer. So pardon the bleep. Neither here nor there. Let's start with some settings that you need to change in order to get better movement. And yes, these are super important, so pay attention. This isn't just like, oh, just change a couple of settings if you want to. No, you got to do this stuff, okay? If you want to improve as Spider-Man, pause the video right now, load up the practice range, turn off ability cooldowns, then open your player settings, click on Spider-Man, and change these specific settings. Just a quick pass at these. Hold to swing is on. Auto swing is off. Hold to crawl on the wall is on. And hold to run on walls is on. Now let's talk about why. First up, auto swing. Absolutely must be turned off. It is bad. It is very bad. Turn it off. It will restrict your speed. It will restrict your trajectory, your angles, your agency. All bad things. Having auto swing turned on is like going through the trouble of renting a Lamborghini that has a governor installed in it so that you can't exceed 80 miles an hour. It defeats the purpose. It's dumb. Turn it off, okay? Here's how it changes things for you, though. I'm assuming you're in the practice range right now, and you have auto swing turned off now. So what's changed? What's different? Well, now you need to actually look at the surface that you want to shoot the web at. And the surface matters, okay? Its distance from you matters, its elevation matters, and the direction that you look after you cling onto it matters. So start zipping around and getting the hang of it. Notice how swinging from something closer to you gives you a smaller arc, but swinging from something farther away from you gives you a much wider sweeping arc. This is really going to matter in a minute when we talk about traversal and animation cancels and all that kind of stuff. But let me really quick talk about why we want hold to swing on. Basically, we want to be able to just let go of the web at any moment without requiring another input. If you don't turn this off, you'll have to like tap shift again or whatever your keybind is in order to release it. We just want to let it go, okay? You just let off of the button and that will just release the web and we'll just go flying. That's what we want. This will tie into some movement tech in a second. We also want hold to wall crawl and wall run on for one very important reason. If you have these settings off, you're gonna die a lot more. I mean, multiple times a match you will die because you did not change this one setting. Because you'll try to zip out of a bad situation and you'll briefly collide with a wall or a solid surface, and instead of just like brushing past it or bouncing off of it, you'll stick to it like a fly on flypaper. You'll just cling to it. And then the enemy's just going to absolutely obliterate you while you're stuck to the surface with no momentum. But if we have to hold the jump button in order to actually cling to something, that will never be a problem. We'll just bounce right off of stuff without any incident. So turn hold to wall crawl and run on. Okay, now we get to the fun part. There are two web maneuvers that you need to learn right now before you actually get into a match. The first one is this, the bunny hop. If you aim below head level and use your web swing ability on PC, that's shift, you'll do a rapid zip to that location that you shot instead of doing a web swing. Okay, you'll do a web swing when you aim at a surface that's above head level. You'll zip if you aim below head level. Does that make sense? But notice this awkward flip animation that we do at the end of our zip. We don't want to do that animation. We don't like that. We want to get rid of it. It stops our momentum and it stops us from performing other abilities and movements. So let's get rid of it. So if you shoot a web cluster, that's a right click on PC. When you shoot this web cluster, your alternate fire, after you zip to the floor, you'll get rid of that animation entirely. Look, no more flip. But here's what's really cool. If we zip, cancel the animation with a cluster, and then we jump the moment we hit the ground, we won't stop. Instead, we'll go flying off and keep all of that momentum from our zip. And you can just keep jumping the second you hit the ground and keep going and going and going and going until your momentum eventually runs out. This is one of your absolute best ways to escape combat in a match. You'll get out of there so fast, you'll go so far, but it's also an insanely fast way of getting into an engagement too. Here, let me show you this clip again that we talked about at the beginning of the video. In this clip, I'm going from the spawn room to on the payload, and I'll have a kill in just 6 seconds. I zip to the ground, I shoot a cluster to cancel the animation, that flip animation, and then I start jumping the second I hit the ground to bunny hop all the way straight to the point. And there, I get this quick combo off on an Iron Fist, I put him down, and then I pull a 180, I use that same bunny hop sequence to get all the way back to my back line out of trouble. So basically, it took the whole thing 9 seconds to go from in the spawn room to the objective point, got a kill, retreated to my back line. That's insane, and that's exactly what you should be doing as Spider-Man. Remember, interstellar object, flying through the system, colliding with something, doing huge damage, and then flying back out of the system. So that's the bunny hop. Next up is the uppercut rollout. So remember when I told you that we want hold to swing turned on? This is why. If you web swing, but you don't want to swing like up into the air, because if you continue to hold your web swing, just try it right now in the practice range. If you hold your web swing, you'll do this downward arc, but then just like a pendulum, eventually you're going to get towards the end of that rope where your web is taut with tension, and you'll swing straight up into the air. But let's say maybe there's like a low covering, you just want to keep going in a straight line. Well, what you do is you can keep your momentum. You can simply release the web swing input whenever you're at the elevation you want to stay at, and then perform an uppercut, or rather your ability called the amazing combo. This is your F input on PC. When you perform this uppercut, you'll keep all of your momentum at that elevation, and you'll fly off into the distance without going up or down. If you've ever wondered how a Spider-Man got to your spawn so fast at the beginning of a match to yank you off a cliff, this is how he did it. If you play enough Spider-Man, you'll start to see these maps very differently. You'll see brand new lanes, new avenues, new flight paths, basically, to get around the map in a way you never could before. So as you watch the background gameplay today, try to take notice of all the times and the ways that I use these two movement abilities to get around, to navigate the arena, and to get out of trouble. I'm relying especially on the bunny hop almost constantly. And when I get to where I want to be, I simply perform a double jump to do a quick flip that stops my momentum. So look at this, for example. I just killed an enemy storm, and then I end up in this 1v1 with Jeff. But I know that it's kind of a waste of time. I'd rather get back to my team and provide some value there and do some damage while Jeff is too far away to effectively heal his team. So I do this bunny hop tech to fly back to the convoy, do a double jump as soon as I arrive at the place where I want to stop my momentum. Then I drop some quick damage on an enemy and zip back to my back line, and again do the double jump to stop my momentum when I get as far as I want to be. You'll be relying on these movements constantly, every single match, every life, every major brawl. That's why I wanted to start here. So before you do anything else, I mean, sure, go ahead and pause the video and come back to it later. I want you to just practice mastering these two movement maneuvers in the practice range. Turn off ability cooldowns so you don't have to wait. You can just constantly spam these. And once you feel like you can do these two things like second nature, then you're ready for combat, which is where we're headed now. All right, it's combat time. Now, in preparation for this video, I watched what a bunch of other creators had to say about Spidey. Now, I gotta tell you guys, I do genuinely think there's some bad advice out there right now. Like, so many folks are saying, this is it. This is the combo you want to use to drop any 250 HP enemy flat out. I've seen this one combo multiple times where they're like, here's what you gotta do, guys. All right, you listen. You got a web cluster into get over here, and then immediately do a web swing, jump animation cancel into a downward slam, into an uppercut, followed by a web cluster, and then a web swing to get out. And I'm like, bro, that's not a combo, that's a dissertation. And like, yeah, sure, in a vacuum against a completely stationary enemy whose reaction speed to any stimuli is 3 whole seconds, then yeah, sure, this combo works like a charm. But guys, the reality is this. Throw away any notion of having a core combo for Spider-Man. There is no core combo. There used to be, back in the day, when he did more damage and he had that Venom team-up, sure. But he does less damage today than he used to do, and he no longer has that Venom team-up, this season at least. But enemies, they move around, they get healed, other enemies come to their aid. Lots of variables are gonna throw off your one combo. And you can't just like, fly away and wait for all of your cooldowns to reset so you can try it again. That's a lot of time wasted where you're not in combat, you're not providing value to your team. A really good Spider-Man knows how to use every tool in his belt to secure a kill, not just one individual combo. Almost never is someone going to sit there and allow you to go web cluster, get over here, web swing, jump, animation cancel, downward slam, uppercut, web cluster to kill them without doing at least something in return. It's just not going to happen. So what do we do instead? Let's break it down. Here's how I want to talk about combat. We want to alternate web clusters with abilities. Okay, something like maybe web cluster, get over here, web cluster punch, web cluster uppercut, something like that. That's because the web cluster ability sets us up to do more damage with every attack. A web cluster will deal 30 damage on impact and it will attach a spider tracer, a spider tracker to the enemy for 3 seconds. But then it will deal 45 damage whenever we detonate that tracker, that spider tracker, with a physical attack. Now we've got a lot of physical attacks to choose from. There's Spider-Man's primary fire, which is a combo. It's punch, punch, kick, punch, punch, kick. The punches do 25 damage each. The kick does 40 damage. So you should toss in that spider tracker in between some of those attacks so that you can get more damage from detonating the tracker. But if you perform a standard attack after performing a double jump, okay, so your primary fire after a double jump, instead of doing punch, punch, kick, you'll do this downward slam attack instead. The overhead slam deals 55 damage. So obviously, that's a much bigger hit than the others. But the overhead slam can be tricky to land. Usually, if you miss because you were too high over the enemy for it to hit. So you may need to wait a moment after a double jump for you to fall back down low enough to hit the enemy with the attack. Now let me take a little bit of an overhead slam rabbit trail for a minute, a little side tangent. If you want to land more of these, there's a couple of tricky things that you can do. First, you can perform this attack after a web swing once, before you start to do your normal combo again. So after exiting a web swing, you can just do this attack once for free. But then if you perform a double jump after that one free slam, you'll get a second one. So you can do back-to-back slams. Look at this. I swing, exit, overhead slam, double jump, overhead slam again for 110 damage, right? So when fighting airborne enemies, you may want to keep that in mind. But now check this out. Let's say you're on the ground fighting an enemy that's weak and they're just right in front of you, and you just want to do a quick overhead slam to finish them off. And you don't want to go through the time of performing a double jump and then falling back down. That's too much time. You may as well have just done your standard combo in that amount of time. What you can actually do, you can shoot your web to do a web swing. But then instead of actually swinging away, you immediately jump to cancel the swing, and then you perform an overhead slam. So you can practice that input sequence for a quick slam in the middle of a duel whenever you want to toss it in without actually doing that double jump way over their head to do it. Just do it right in their face instead. So again, that's web swing, jump to cancel it, melee. So for me, on PC, it's shift, space, left click. Shift, space, left click. Web swing, jump, primary attack. Pretty simple maneuver, but you need to aim the web swing at a solid surface somewhere, so it works best when there's like a backdrop nearby. Okay, let's get back on track. That's all of Spidey's primary attack inputs. Now let's talk about Get Over Here. This is your E ability on PC. This ability will either pull the enemy to you, or it will pull you to the enemy. We'll talk about when those things happen. If the enemy has no spider tracker on them, you'll pull the enemy to you. This is great for grabbing someone and yanking them over to your team to beat them up together. It reaches up to 20 meters, and the pull will deal 25 damage to the enemy as you do it. The pull is great for yanking Cloak and Dagger out of her ultimate after she pops it, so you can kill her and eliminate her healing pools. You can disrupt enemy ultimates like this Scarlet Witch here and send her back to 50% charge instead. Or as I'm sure you know, you can also pull enemies off the map with this ability. Just jump out over the edge of the map or over a hole, grab an enemy, yank them to you, and then just web swing away to safety while they fall like a rock. Now, I honestly, admittedly, I don't do this very often, but it is something that you can do and you should do when the opportunity does present itself. But let's say you've attached a spider tracker to the enemy with a web cluster. Well, now, instead of pulling the enemy to you, you'll pull yourself to the enemy, but this time, instead of dealing 25 damage, you will impact them for 55 damage, plus the tracer detonation on top of that. So if possible, the best thing to do is to fire off a few web clusters and deal hopefully between 60 and 90 damage depending on how many you land. Then use Get Over Here to pull yourself to them for another 55 damage plus 45 damage for the detonation. Now after that, they're probably really weak and hopefully an easy cleanup with your primary fire before they can get away. But let's just say that you do the basic one cluster, you shoot them with one cluster, then you do a Get Over Here into a web strike. You're looking at 130 damage right there. So you could then immediately throw in, let's say, an uppercut, an amazing combo attack. So let's talk about that one next. Spider-Man also has an ability called Amazing Combo. It's an uppercut attack that deals 60 damage. Remember, we talked about this ability in the movement portion of the video. It's how we carry our momentum out of a web swing. But it's also the biggest damage dealing attack Spider-Man has outside of his ultimate ability. You have 2 charges of his uppercut with a 2-second cooldown between uses. The punches cool down in 6 seconds. This attack has a very generous hitbox, reaching 4 meters in front of Spider-Man, behind Spider-Man, beside Spider-Man. That means you can easily catch multiple enemies in this attack when you perform it in a crowd. In fact, one thing Spider-Man is really good at is zipping through a crowd and throwing in the uppercut as he's flying through. Remember, he's an interstellar object just passing through the system and slamming into stuff on his way through. In this clip, I get a nice double kill. Then there's just a Penny alone on the point, and I don't want to stand in her webs and get accosted by spider bots, so I zip through the zone and bash her with an uppercut on my way through, and I take 0 damage doing it. That takes me to one of the core attacks that you want to toss into your repertoire. Sure, throw an uppercut into somebody every time you use the Get Over Here ability on them, but another core attack for you to learn is a simple one. Just web zip to the floor. Place the reticle at the enemy's feet. So you zip right to them, and then you do that uppercut the second you arrive. I use it here, for example, to get a kill on Luna Snow on the new map. She's in a room with a low ceiling, so a web swing is off the table. Instead, I'm going to web zip right to her feet, throw that uppercut in there to secure the kill. Easy peasy. You'll see me doing this all the time in the gameplay. Take this kill on Adam Warlock, for example. Adam has a ton of self-healing with his E ability, so I've got to out-damage both of his heals here. I hit him with a cluster, a Get Over Here, an uppercut, an overhead slam, some primary attacks, and then finally, to seal the deal, I attach a spider tracker. Then I web zip directly to his feet and uppercut him for 105 damage between the uppercut and the detonation. You gotta toss this in all the time. Zip to the feet, uppercut, zip to the feet, uppercut. And if you have a tracker on them, even better. That's big chunk damage. And even better, if you teach yourself the muscle memory to uppercut right after every single overhead slam, too. That's huge burst damage. An overhead slam followed immediately by an uppercut is 115 damage. If you had a tracker on them when you did it, 160 damage. That's big boy damage right there. So practice throwing in that uppercut after every overhead slam for sure. Okay, I know this is a longer video, but what do you want from me? Spider-Man's a 5-star hero for a reason. There's a lot of technical stuff on him, and I'm trying to explain it one thing at a time to keep it simple. Let's move on to his ultimate ability, then we'll talk passives. And then we'll tie everything together in a nice package and talk about practical applications of his entire kit. Okay, Spider-Man's ultimate ability is called Spectacular Spin. On cast, Spider-Man gets 250 bonus HP. That means killing him in his ult is a hard thing to do. You're usually better off trying to CC him instead. So as a Spider-Man, you gotta look out for CC abilities. Wanda's mobility field will stop your ult. Hela's Soul Drain ability, Mantis' Sleep Bomb, Luna's Freeze, other Spider-Men using Get Over Here. There's a lot of things in the game that can stop you mid-ult. So you gotta be mindful of those things. You might have to bait out some stuff before you ult. The ultimate will hit anybody in an 8-meter spherical radius of Spidey. If enemies get hit by enough projectiles during the ultimate, they'll get webbed up and immobilized for a second and a half. If that happens, you'll want to hit somebody with a cluster while they're immobilized and then uppercut them to hopefully finish them off at that point. It's always best to deal at least some damage before ulting as Spider-Man to increase your chances of securing a kill. At least throw in some web clusters before you zip to the ground, zip to the group, and pop the ult. Target duelists and healers with this ult, ideally. If it's Cloak and Dagger, then you have to damage her first, or else she'll just swap to Cloak and fly away out of your ult. Your bonus HP will go away about a second after you finish your ult, so be mindful of that as well if you pop your ult at low health. Also know that when you pop your ult, you'll drop like a rock. So if you're trying to ult flyers up in the sky, they'll stay up there in the sky, and you'll just fall down to earth in the middle of your ult. Stick to low ceilings when ulting flyers. Also, don't ult Emma unless you know she just used her diamond form. Otherwise, she's going to choke you in your ult and step on you, which, isn't the worst thing in the world. Quick side note, if you pop your ultimate while web zipping, it will be like your uppercut. You'll just keep sailing past everyone. So make sure you stop your momentum or your web zip to the floor where you want to use your ult. Otherwise, you might just go flying off to another solar system while ulting, and you'll look ridiculous. Okay, let's talk passes. We won't spend too long here, just a flyby. You have a double jump. We talked about it a lot. It stops your momentum, carries you higher. You have wall clinging, wall crawling, and wall running. I like to use the wall run to make safe approaches whenever possible because it's fast, it's quieter than web swinging. People hate Spider-Man, so their ears are trained to hear web swinging. So if you can close the gap by wall running instead of swinging, do it. You also have Spider Sense. If an enemy has been near your location within the last 3 seconds, your Spider Sense will tingle, letting you know danger is likely close. This is sometimes helpful when someone is trying to ambush your team. When it comes to team-ups, the Venom team-up got deactivated, so did the Squirrel Girl Web Nut. Right now, we have the Inferno Blast team-up with the Human Torch. This one's awesome. You shoot out a different spider tracker and perform a backflip when you do it. If you then detonate that tracker, you deal 15 burn damage per second to the enemy for 4 seconds. This is a great team-up ability, especially since you can actually apply a spider tracker and a fire tracker on the same target at the same time. The normal ones don't stack, so you can do huge burst damage that way. You can, web cluster, fire tracker, and then swing in to detonate them. Really cool team-up. All right, let's bring everything together in a nice package. Spider-Man has a lot of tools in his belt. He has unparalleled freedom of movement to traverse the battlefield, movement that even allows him to be his own healer since med packs are only a short zip and a hop away. A good Spider-Man will let his healers focus on their front line instead of just pinging for heals all the time. A dead giveaway that your Spider-Man sucks is if he complains about not getting healed. It's literally so much faster for him to zip to a med pack instead of begging for heals. Sometimes, if there isn't a lot of pressure, like maybe the fighting has kind of cooled down, sure, I'll zip to my healers and I'll stand right in front of them and I won't move. And that gives them the chance to boost their healing numbers, to get ultimate energy, and I'm not being a jerk in the process. But if things are hectic, we're in the middle of a big brawl, I'll take care of my own health and let them worry about keeping our front line intact. Spider-Man's movement plus his CC abilities between knocking enemies up into the air and yanking them over to himself, this also allows him to be a good peeler when necessary, since we're on the topic of our own healers. If my healers are having trouble with a Black Panther, then my role changes from backline diver to bodyguard. I will make the Panther paranoid and have him looking over his shoulder every time he starts to approach my healers. But Spidey's movement also makes him a real thorn in the side of an enemy flyer. Iron Man, Ultron, Storm, Human Torch, Spider-Man is a great way to keep these enemies at the very least very occupied, if not totally grounded. Even better if you have a teammate with some ranged damage potential to toss in there just a little bit of damage while you're doing your combos. They'll drop like flies. So make sure you land some clusters on flyers first before you zip in with your get over here. Do an uppercut after, and make sure to apply another cluster before you punch them after that. If they try to fly away with very little health, don't panic. Slow down, line up the web clusters and finish them off with your web shots. You can always find another surface to web swing to, just to follow them through the air. Otherwise, you can also web zip to a health pack that they might be flying for and beat them to it. Let's keep the ball rolling here on priority targets. We've listed peeling divers off healers. We've listed flyers. Let's talk about poke heroes. Some of the most annoying heroes who will be pestering your teammates are Hawkeyes, Hellas, Widows, Moon Knights. There are some abilities that we want to bait out. As Spider-Man, you can make these heroes feel pressure by using your movement and your web clusters to deal some damage to them and make them think that you're about to zip to them for an uppercut. But be patient. Make them think that that attack is coming as you hit them with those clusters for 30 damage here, 30 damage there. And as soon as you see Hella freak out and use her bird to fly away, that's when you pounce on her. She can no longer avoid your attacks. Stay off the ground to avoid her soul drain and you'll be good. With Black Widow, you want to do close flybys as you're doing your web clusters. This way you bait out her spin kick. As soon as you see her use it and miss, now you pounce hard. Hawkeye can bat you away, but that's about it. You just want to be all over him. Moon Knights are great targets for Spider-Man too, especially since their escape plan is to slowly fly away, making them extremely easy targets for Spidey. Just stay off the ground so you don't get caught in an onk. And if you're approaching him and he throws an onk at his feet, just pull him out of it, pull him away from it, and then beat his butt. Now notice that I have said not a single thing. I've said nothing about diving enemy healers yet. Let me keep it a buck with y'all, okay? If your Spider-Man is only diving enemy healers, then he's not a great Spider-Man. Imagine having all that freedom of movement, so many tools to deal damage, the ability to zip across the entire map in seconds just to spend the whole match hovering around the enemy backline. Like, I think what makes a great Spider-Man is the ability to read the fight, read the room, to have some game sense and some situational awareness and be able to know where on the battlefield they can provide the most benefit to their team at any given moment. Like, yeah, sometimes that's gonna be diving the enemy backline and pressuring or killing their healers. Yes, I admit that. That way their front line is soft and my Vanguards can win their fights. But matches are more complex than that. And the situation changes moment to moment, match to match. So I like to check the scoreboard, see who's causing the biggest problem for my teammates, and then go be that guy's problem. A lot of healers have great ways to avoid dives anyway, so sometimes the best value that you can provide might not be hanging around the enemy healers. Find another place to be a menace when you need to. Okay, some closing remarks. People hate Spider-Man like they really hate Spider-Man. You'll get far more hate in the game chat playing Spider-Man than you typically would playing anybody else, okay? So just be prepared for that. Have some thick skin. You could be the best player on your team, and when your team loses, they'll blame the awful Spider-Man instead of the guy who went 2 and 10 on DPS. And you'll have so many matches where at the very beginning of the match, you'll dive on someone and you'll kill them. And it's just one death. That's all it took. And they will immediately swap to Namor. It's like clockwork. This guy here, for example, game just starts. He's Bucky. He comes out of the spawn room and I dive on him and I kill him. And when he respawns, he's Namor. There's no attempt to do anything else. No attempt to try and play Bucky better. This is so common. People absolutely hate Spider-Man and they will do anything in their power to make sure that Spider-Men do not have good games. That means Loki's, it means Namor's, it means Wanda's in your matches all the time. So don't just switch off. Learn how to play around those heroes. Bait out Loki's runes and then fully commit to a dive when they're on cooldown. Bait out Wanda's spectral charges. Play the perimeter until you see Namor pop his bubble and then you zip in and you beat his butt to the ground. If you want to be a better Spider-Man, you will be forced to learn how to play around his counters. It's just a fact of life. Other than that, keep an eye out for the Thing. You don't want to dive on a Thing when he's in his Yancey Street Charge, because when he pounds the ground, it's going to make it so you can't web zip. You'll be grounded. You're an easy target for him, so beware of that. If you want to take things another step further, you can rebind your Get Over Here to a different key, so that even if you have a web cluster on somebody, if you have a web tracker on them, you can still pull them to you instead, if that's what you'd rather do in the moment. But that's just getting highly technical. Other than that, that's the video, everyone. I hope you found all of this both entertaining and helpful. If you did, would you let me know by leaving a like in the video? Because that's the best free way to support the content right here on YouTube. Also consider subscribing for additional Marvel Rivals content. And please leave me suggestions for any heroes that I haven't covered yet. I think I've got, 25 lords and guides out at this point. So we're running low on characters to do full advanced guides on, but if there's someone I haven't done yet that you want me to cover, let me know in the comments section. Thanks again, Rocket Money, for sponsoring this video. Be warm and well fed, my friends, and I hope to catch you in the next one. Bye-bye.